Hello everyone, I'm Major Garrett in Washington. We have breaking news on two fronts. Sean Diddy Combs sentenced in New York, and Hamas partially, in fact, more than partially, accepting much of the 20-point plan for peace proposed by President Trump.
Now listen, oh baby, I've got a peace deal. Beautiful deal. Israel announces a ceasefire and withdraws all of its forces. War over. No, not the Judea mind tricks.
This isn't the peace deal you're looking for.
This isn't the peace deal we're looking for.
You will do everything I say.
I will do everything you say.
You're a moron.
I'm a moron.
Mr. President, thank you for this brilliant deal you've come up with all on your own.
Welcome back to the channel. Tune in or ghost out. I hope you had an amazing weekend, and let's get right into today's topic. Trump has brokered a peace deal between Israel and Hamas, but with the history of this conflict dating back several decades, many people don't have faith that this will actually be a lasting peace deal. Even our own Secretary of State, Mark Rubio, came out and said this is not yet an end to the war, but I will give Trump credit, this is more steps than our last president took. Are they just words, or will they lead to actual actions that save lives? Only time will tell. Currently at the moment, after the peace deal was announced Friday, Israel's offensive continued the next day, and even as they wait for negotiators to head to Egypt to work out the final details, there's still active strikes happening right now in Gaza. It's moves like this from the Israeli forces that make people really turn their back on what they're trying to do, and for this reason, it's not a surprise that 53% of Americans have an unfavorable view of Israel. The amount of anti-Israel sentiment going around is at all-time highs, and I want to highlight anti-Israel because I don't think it is anti-Semitic. And when you take the time to peel the layers of the onion back, you could see a real influence problem in our politics. If I asked you about Israel in 2018, you probably wouldn't have much to say. But if I ask you about it today, you might think it's our 51st state. The positioning of America and Israel being right next to each other isn't on accident. Since the late 90s, Israel has been fundamental in America's plans in the Middle East. It gives us recognition in an area where we would have no business being in. And the position of where it lays on the map couldn't have been better for our interests. It is a foothold in the crossroads of Africa, Europe, and the Middle East that has access to several canals and the Persian Gulf. It follows our same capitalistic democracy type system. It lets us push the might of America to a broader people. But all of this strategic benefit, if you could say, it comes at a very steep cost. Many people are familiar with AIPAC, which is an acronym for the American Israel Public Affairs Committee. This group here pays a lot of money to politicians to peddle influence. And if you don't believe me, they're one of the groups behind all the trips to Israel that you see our congresswomen and men taking. And this is not just at a federal level. Not too long ago, the daughter of an Arizona senator came out and said this about him.
So yeah, it looks like my dad and a bunch of other just like loser politicians from New Mexico went to meet with Netanyahu, and I don't know what they could possibly discuss. I mean, again, it's my dad and a bunch of other like state senators and state reps, which like, how does meeting with Netanyahu help the local people of New Mexico? But yeah, I genuinely believe that Israel is like paying my dad now to like peddle propaganda.
What business does Israel have of flying out a Arizona senator? But that's how deep the money campaigns go. And it just shows you how much of our politicians are willing to sell out their beliefs for a paycheck. I want to reiterate this again. This is not about the Jewish people at all. This is about power-hungry Zionists. I'm going to put up on screen a website called Track AIPAC, and it shows just how many politicians in our country take donations from AIPAC. The scariest thing about the tracker is that most of our politicians have taken donations, and that's probably not a surprise to you. You see how they reject the votes to let the Epstein files out, or how they pass through and approve any deal pertaining to Israel, but then have to debate that we spend too much for Ukraine. The Israel bias is very hard to miss in American politics. But what gives them such a great power over our government? Well, the Israel that we know today wasn't even established till after World War II, and from that point on, they've always had some sort of American approval. But to me, it wasn't really until 1969 to when Nixon really professed our love for Israel and our connection and how deeply tied we were to them. And one of the big things about Israel and the establishment after World War II was that it was established for mainly religious reasons. I named off all the strategic benefits, but the land of Israel was established because of biblical prophecy trying to ensure the second comings of Christ. I know that sounds crazy, and I'm pretty sure this video will not be pushed out, but is that not crazy? As somebody who is also religious, when I see religion being used used to push the action of certain things, I automatically just flag it in my head, no matter what it is. And I feel like this is exactly one of those moments. When you back things with faith, you almost make it impossible to question. It's not rooted in earthly arguments, so anything that you debate on the topic would not matter to the other side. And that's exactly what happens with Israel. This problem with the support, the amount of money, and the influence that they have on the American government is nothing new. As a lover of boom bap, old school hip hop that talked about real topics, I vividly remember Lupe Fiasco talking about the Gaza Strip and the conflict back in like '03. These conversations have been heavily censored throughout the dialogue, and for the first time ever are actually getting real light with influential people like Nick Fuentes, Tucker Carlson, and even Hassan talking about how Zionism has plagued the world with so many troubles. But aside from just buying influence, what negative things has this introduced into our nation? Well, the issue really stems from the Israeli-American identity. Something that has plagued the American political system and is almost propped up to a sense is the amount of division and how we separate the American identity in so many different ways. But even as we differentiate ourselves in groups, whether it be liberal, Republican, conservative, or Democrat, we have somewhat of a vested interest to make sure that this country stays on the ropes. But when it comes to the interests of the Israel lobby, they are really more concerned about making sure that Israel is taken care of. And a lot of the policies that they push for kind of have an Israel bias. This is what you hear when people say that the are in control, because while they might be American citizens, but once you take that flight, kiss the wall, and shake Bibi's hand, you then commit to being an instrument of the Israel government. And look at the foundation. It is assumed that Israel has to be a nation just to initiate the second coming of Christ. Of course, they're going to side with them over us. And unfortunately, with this Israel first mindset that our politicians are paid to have, that leaves taxpayer money up for Israel to grab, soldiers up for Israel to place globally, and the iron fist of America for Israel to tote like it's no issue. Not too long ago, America was a part of bomb strikes in Iran. Many news agencies covered the story, but I don't think the severity of that action really set in. We were never supposed to be involved, and that was one of the things that we were standing on. But in the matter of 3 days, we dropped a payload on Iran that hasn't been seen in decades. While Iran has not done much to respond to that escalation, it was an escalation. And even with this Hamas deal, the future of the Middle East is in shakier ground than ever. Mix that in with the stories of Israeli political members getting caught up in PDF file stings and flying back to their country with no consequence. It makes the American citizen and the problems that we go through seem like a second priority that no one wants to pay attention to. I didn't want to go into the rabbit hole for this video too much. At the end of the day, even though I don't agree with the Israeli partnership that America has, I don't want it to be a tool for anti-Semitism. I have Jewish friends, and they even agree the things that Israel is doing are beyond permissible, and that actions need to be swiftly taken to stop operations that are going on now. The distaste for Israel is not just a isolated issue at this point. It has spread far and wide and is causing revolutionary change across the globe. It has put a red hot light on all the political corruption going on, and I think will make America have to answer some tough questions in the coming years, but maybe I'm too hopeful of the things that I'm seeing. Israel has been able to pull the wool over the American people's eyes for decades. Donald Trump is not the first president to cater to them this heavily, but the amount of scrutiny we're seeing today has never been allowed before. But at the end of the day, if we don't put actual laws and bills into place that stop people from lobbying our government this effectively, then we will never truly be doing the will of the people, because the people aren't allowed to lobby. We get to vote for our candidates every couple years, but these committees like AIPAC get to talk to these congresswomen and senators every single day. Until we make the American word hold value, we'll never be able to change this influence problem. We will continue to be ignored for a payout, and our politicians will retire happily, having never served us but making people who live across the sea very happy. We might just be able to take our country back from, or they'll take our citizenship away for speaking out. Either way, we are seeing history being made right in front of our eyes. If you agree or disagree with anything I said on this topic, let me know down below in the comments. What are your views on Israel? Is Trump our president, or is it Bibi? Don't forget to like and subscribe to join the thread. But with that being said, thank you for tuning in. Until next time.
Transmission complete. Signal terminating. This is Ghost Thread, signing off.